The skies above Apokolips burned with eternal fire, the air thick with the scent of molten metal and despair. Towers of black stone clawed into the abyss, rising over the writhing masses of enslaved souls. Here, in the heart of the most ruthless empire in the cosmos, Darkseid, the god of tyranny, stood upon his throne of obsidian, his crimson eyes burning with cold intensity. Before him, the parademons kneeled, their grotesque forms shivering under the gaze of their master. Darkseid, Darkseid's loyal servant, slithered forward, bowing deeply before speaking. "My lord, there is an entity," Darkseid muttered, his voice laced with unease, "a force unlike any we have encountered before. It does not come from the source, nor from the domains of the old gods." Darkseid did not move. "Speak." Darkseid hesitated for only a moment. "It is a rider, my lord, a being wrapped in hellfire. He has been destroying your outposts in the far reaches of the galaxy. The parademons cannot stop him. Your lieutenants have fallen." Darkseid slowly rose from his throne, his towering form casting a shadow that stretched across the hall. "Show me." With a flick of his hand, Darkseid activated a holographic projection. The image displayed a lone figure, draped in chains, riding across the flaming ruins of a once mighty fortress. His skull burned with an unholy fire, and the engine of his motorcycle roared like a beast from the depths of damnation. Ghost Rider. Darkseid watched as the rider swung his chains, cleaving through a squadron of parademons with ruthless efficiency. The hellfire that consumed his skeletal form radiated pure, cosmic vengeance. Then, as if sensing the eyes of the dark god upon him, the rider turned his head directly toward the projection, his empty sockets, burning with the flames of retribution, locked onto Darkseid's own gaze. A challenge. For the first time in countless millennia, Darkseid felt something almost akin to curiosity. "This rider," Darkseid said, stepping forward, "he destroys my armies, my war machines." "Why?" Darkseid gulped. "We do not know, my lord." He speaks only one phrase. Darkseid narrowed his eyes. "What does he say?" The image flickered, crackling with distorted sound. Then, in a voice that shook the very fabric of reality, the Ghost Rider's words came through, dripping with fire and judgment. "Darkseid, your soul is stained with the blood of trillions. I have come for you." A silence fell over the chamber. Darkseid did not frown, did not rage. Instead, he smirked. "A spirit of vengeance," he mused. "How amusing." Then, with a simple wave of his hand, Darkseid shattered the hologram. "Bring him to me," he commanded. "Alive." The Ghost Rider did not wait for Darkseid's armies to come to him. He rode to the void itself, his motorcycle carving a path through the nothingness of space. Flames of damnation burned in his wake. To any mortal, such a journey would be madness. But Ghost Rider was no mere mortal. His name had once been Johnny Blaze, a man who had made a deal with the devil, a man who had suffered for eternity, bound to the spirit of Zarathos, the very essence of vengeance itself. He had seen worlds fall, witnessed the wicked rise and the innocent perish. But never had he felt such a pull, such an undeniable command from the universe itself. Darkseid's sins could not go unpunished. The penance stare demanded it. He had already carved his way through Darkseid's outer defenses. Fortresses fell, commanders burned, and the screams of the guilty echoed into the void. But Apokolips loomed ahead, its blackened surface pulsing like the beating heart of something ancient and vile. As Ghost Rider approached, the planet itself reacted. The skies erupted in fire. Omega energy crackled across the heavens. A boom tube opened before him, and from the rift in space emerged the full might of Darkseid's elite. Kalibak, Darkseid's monster son, let out a battle cry. Steppenwolf, the general of war, unsheathed his axe. Granny Goodness, her wicked laughter echoing, sent forth the Furies to tear him apart. A lesser being would have turned back. a lesser soul would have feared. But Ghost Rider? Ghost Rider only grinned. His chains burned brighter. His bike's engine howled. And as he roared into battle, he spoke just one word. Guilty. The skies above Apokolips were burning. Hellfire clashed with the raw energies of the Omega effect, turning the battlefield into a maelstrom of destruction. The Ghost Rider carved a path through the hordes of Apokolips like a force of nature. Kalibak, Steppenwolf, the female Furies. All of them fell before the relentless onslaught of the spirit of vengeance. His chains, searing with hellfire, coiled around Steppenwolf's axe and shattered it in a single pull. His penance stare, burning with judgment, sent Kalibak into a writhing agony as the weight of his sins crushed his very soul. The very ground cracked beneath the Ghost Rider's presence. But Darkseid was waiting, at the gates of his grand citadel. The god of tyranny stood unmoved, watching the slaughter unfold before him. The flames of vengeance had engulfed his armies, but Darkseid remained calm, patient, amused. As Ghost Rider tore through the last of the parademons, he revved his hell cycle, roaring toward the black monolith where Darkseid stood. The moment he approached, the shadows themselves twisted, and Darkseid extended his hand. And then, boom, the Omega beams erupted from his eyes. The crimson energy split through the battlefield, warping space itself as they twisted unnaturally toward their target. Ghost Rider barely had time to react before the beam struck him, wrapping around his body like chains forged in hell itself. For the first time since he arrived, Ghost Rider felt something he had not felt in centuries. Pain. The Omega beams did not simply burn his body. They attacked his very essence. His flames flickered, his chains cracked, and his bike exploded into pieces, leaving him tumbling across the broken ruins of Apokolips. Ghost Rider staggered to his feet, his skeletal form smoking, his skull dimming as if his very fire was struggling to stay alive. But he did not fall. He raised his head, empty sockets locked onto Darkseid. "You cannot run," Ghost Rider growled. "Your sins will be judged." Darkseid took a single step forward, his massive frame blotting out the fires behind him. "You are mistaken, Spirit," he said. His voice was cold, absolute, the voice of a god who had never been questioned. "It is not I who will be judged." And then Darkseid was upon him. In an instant, the battlefield shook as Darkseid struck Ghost Rider with the force of a collapsing star. The impact sent the spirit of vengeance flying through towers of black stone, shattering them into rubble. Ghost Rider roared, summoning his chains, sending them coiling through the air toward the dark god. But Darkseid did not flinch. With a flick of his hand, he caught the chains midair and with an effortless pull, dragged Ghost Rider toward him. Before Ghost Rider could react, Darkseid's massive hand closed around his flaming skull. And then he squeezed. For the first time, Ghost Rider screamed. The pressure was unbearable. The Omega effect surged through his soul, draining his power, unraveling the spirit of vengeance from within. Darkseid lifted him high into the air, his voice unshaken. "You have made one fatal mistake, Spirit," Darkseid said, staring into the burning sockets of Ghost Rider's skull. "You believe yourself to be the judge of the wicked. You believe your flames can burn gods." Darkseid's grip tightened, the Omega energy ripping through Ghost Rider's immortal form. "But I am no mere sinner. I am inevitable." Ghost Rider struggled, his body flickering, his flames growing weaker. He was losing. The spirit of vengeance, for all his power, could not match the sheer overwhelming force of Darkseid's will. But he had one last move. With one final breath, he activated the penance stare. The flames in his eyes intensified, and he poured every ounce of his power into Darkseid's soul. "Feel the weight of your crimes." The penance stare had burned gods before. It had crushed demons, shattered titans, and forced the most wicked beings in existence to drown in their own sins. And yet, Darkseid did not falter. The god of Apokolips did not waver, did not kneel, did not scream. Instead, he laughed. "You are a fool," Darkseid said, His eyes burned brighter, his power surging beyond mortal comprehension. I do not feel guilt. I do not feel regret. I do not feel pain. And then, with a single burst of Omega energy, he extinguished Ghost Rider's flames. The skull of the spirit of vengeance dimmed, his body going limp in Darkseid's grasp. Darkseid raised him high, and with one final, merciless motion, he crushed the Ghost Rider's skull in his hand. The battlefield fell silent. The fires of hell faded. The once relentless Ghost Rider lay motionless at Darkseid's feet, his chains broken, his power nothing more than dying embers. Darkseid turned, his gaze shifting to the remains of the battlefield. This one was powerful, he said, tossing Ghost Rider's lifeless remains aside like discarded ashes. But power is meaningless before the will of Darkseid. Darkseid approached cautiously, his eyes lingering on the fallen Ghost Rider. "Shall we dispose of it, my lord?" Darkseid smirked. "No," he said. "I have a better fate in mind." He lifted his hand, summoning the raw force of the anti-life equation. The black tendrils of cosmic enslavement wrapped around Ghost Rider's corpse, sinking into the remnants of his soul. And then, Ghost Rider's skull reignited. But this time, the flames were not his own. They burned black. They burned for Darkseid. The spirit of vengeance was no more. Now, there was only the rider of Apokolips,